Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Voliparava Voliparava புதுவை புதுவை புதுமையே போற்றுவோம் புதுவை பல்கலைக்கழகமே உனை வாழ்த்துவோம்
வங்க கடலலை தாலாட்டும் ஞான சூரியன் உதிக்கும் இடம்
இது எங்கள் புதுநெறி காட்டும் உலகம் எந்நாளும் அறிவு தேடல் தொடரும் அறிவூற்றை பொழியும் ஆசிரியர் அதில் தினமும் நனையும் மாணவர்கள்
இதிலன்று புதுவை பல்கலைக்கழகம் அறிவின் தாகம் தனியும் சோலை அகிலம் போற்றும் கல்வி சாலை மனித வளமே என்று முயல புனித சேவை தொடருதே சுடரொளி கண்ணில் விட அன்பின் மலர் விதை நெஞ்சில் எழ யாதும் ஊரே யாவரும் கேளீர் மாண்பினை உரைக்கும் மக்களரங்கம் இதிலன்று புதுவை பல்கலைக்கழகம் அறிவின் தாகம் தனியும் சோலை அகிலம் போற்றும் கல்வி சாலை மனித வளமே என்று முயல புனித சேவை தொடருதே பல்கலைக்கழகம் என்றும் வளர்ந்திட நாமும் வழிபடுவோம் கல்வி சேவைகள் யாவும் காலமும் தொடர்ந்திட நாளும் வேண்டிடுவோம் புதுமையே புதுமையே போற்றிடும் பல்கலைக்கழகமே என்றும் வாழ்கவே 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 புதுவை புதுவை புதுமையே போற்றுவோம்
புதுவை பல்கலைக்கழகமே உன்னை வாழ்த்துவோம்
புதுவை புதுவை புதுமையே போற்றுவோம்
புதுவை பல்கலைக்கழகமே உன்னை வாழ்த்துவோம்.
Professor Dr. Raghotaman sir, respected Sayyid Munawali Tangal, respected Dr. M.T. Ansari, respected Dr. Marx, dear colleagues and my dear students. Indeed, today is a day of red letters in the annals of our university. As we have heard the university anthem speaking, creativity and innovation is the hallmark of Pondicherry University. The word Puduvai derives inspiration to take up innovation. As the spirit of the university is being reiterated in various occasions and events, perhaps this conference on faith and harmony adds to the records of the university in its events of innovation. It's an occasion to rework and to reinvent the relationship between spirituality and society, belief and pluralism, faith and living together. It's indeed an innovation to recapitulate and revisit the Holy Scriptures that have been a compilation of several values that are perhaps forgotten in the most advancing and postmodernizing world. The Holy Quran says that the humankind is the best of the creations on this earth, the Ashraful Makhluk. And the God says that 18 lakh creations were created on this earth, and all of them are expected to serve this humankind, and the humankind is expected to perform the ordained duties of the Almighty. This has been the valuable input to humankind, the guidance to humankind, the framework that has been provided by all religions indeed. Whether it is Hinduism or Christianity or Zoroastrianism or Sikhism, all have been trying to rework the relationship between the supernatural being and the humanity in various forms. Indeed, it's a time for us to recapitulate all this because in the fast-growing world of communication and technology, what has been gained in the form of knowledge has left behind what the saints would call it as wisdom. The wisdom of life that was transcended through these scriptures, holy scriptures. And it's time for us to get into this retrospection, because the humanity to live together in its cultural pluralism, multi-religious atmosphere, and an atmosphere of peace and tolerance would be perhaps possible when the youth are given an opportunity to learn and relearn, learn and interpret and practice these spirits told in the faiths and scriptures.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It was a bit flattering, but alhamdulillah, it is indeed a great opportunity to be here on this auspicious occasion held in this renowned campus. Respected Professor Vengada Ragodam, respected MT Ansari, Dr. T. Marx, Dr. Ghulam Dastagir, Ahmad Ishaq Hudavi Al-Irshadi, and the dignitaries on the dais, and the professors and dignitaries of the dais, and my dear brothers and sisters. It is indeed a great honor for me to be here, to be a part of this renowned conference on a relevant topic. I take this opportunity to congratulate and appreciate the organizing committee for organizing such a thoughtful and meaningful event. Since we all are Indian, we all are proud to be Indian. We believe in secularism. Though we are from different faith and different religion, different culture, different states, we believe in Indianness. So our constitution is very keen for secularism. We believe in unity in diversity. Indian constitution allows us to accept any religion, practice and propagate, and we have the freedom of belief as far we are the Indian citizen. Every religion promotes virtues, love, compassion, and fraternity. When someone brings virtues and doing good things, it becomes a religion. When Buddha, Sri Buddha, taught good thoughts, it became a religion. So the faith allows us to live peacefully and happily. We should be able to keep our faith in our heart, and it should never shed the blood each other. It should refine our soul and our body in a good way. The objective of the religion or a faith to build up a good human being. Our religion or our faith should not be big walls among us, or shouldn't be an obstacle among different religions. And all the religion are teaching values. In this current world, the values are being biased. We are lacking a lot of values. So religion is the factory of values where we can develop ourselves to be a human being. So, as a human being, it is our responsibility to be a human being. Being a human is a big responsibility. As God said in the Quran, Inni ja'ilun fil arli khalifa. You have been sent as the representative of God. We have been blessed with the wisdom. We have the power of wisdom, power to think, power to act, power to work. So though human beings are very small in size, their capabilities are vast. We can even reach the natural anywhere in the world, regardless of its outreach. So, as we have given the wisdom, it should be utilized for the good deeds or the virtue of the humankind, or to construct a new peaceful world. So we all believe in any of the religion. Some of us believe in one God, in Allah. Some of us believe in other religion. So, since the creation of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam till now, there are a lot of renaissance being happened. And all the renaissance being happened by the thoughts of human being. So we should be able to focus on humanity rather than being isolated as believers in different religion. Our religion, our faith should be in our heart, and it should refine ourselves to win both the world. So there were some of the incidents in national level and international level. The Muslims are being blamed as terrorists. The cruelty has been shown in the media, and there was a propagation which really misunderstood the world. So our objective is to be transparent. We have to be transparent in our life. That is the important thing that we should be able to go ahead. The harmonious life that we should be having is very inevitable in the century. There were some incidents happened in the northeastern states of India, Assam and other areas. And also some incidents happened in Myanmar and other parts of the world. That is also so sad about that. So, as a human being, we are all have one responsibility: to build up a peaceful world. In Quran says about equality, Ya ayyuhan nas, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qaba'ila lita'arafu, inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. O mankind, you have been created from a man and from a woman, and you have been divided into different tribes and family just to attend to each other. The best among you is the best who fears God. So fearing God, that is the most important thing. Be it wherever we are from, whatever we are, our mind should be equal. So what I'm trying to say is, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has shown us a good lesson for being harmony. When he migrated from Mecca to Medina, the first attempt was to create a charter that is named as Medina Charter. Medina Charter was a lightning star in the history of harmony and mutual understanding. It was signed between Muslims and Jews, who are the indigenous community of Medina. According to the charter, they are free of speech and assemble, and they are free of organizing and settle anywhere in the country. And they are free to do their religious affairs according to their book. And there was an incident when Prophet saw one dead body was taken for a funeral, and Prophet seems to stand up and respect the body. And one of the companions asked, why, Prophet, it is the body of a Jew, why you are standing up? And he says, it is a body of a human being. And there was a Christian delegation came to Prophet Mosque. And in that time, the prayer didn't create any problem of inconvenience of them, that the Prophet convinced them to use that sacred place for irrespective of religion. And also the Fatah Makkah, the legacy when he dealt with the time of Fatah Makkah, when he apologized all who invited him cruelly before. He pardoned everyone. And he said when he came to Makkah, Man dakhala Masjid al-Haram wa huwa aminun. Those who enter the holy mosque, he is safe. And he again said, Man dakhala bayt Abi Sufyan, huwa aminun. Those who enter the house of Abu Sufyan, he is safe. Abu Sufyan, the one who was dead against the Prophet. And when he came back with the victory, he never showed his revenge. He was very humble to the enemies. So this kind of harmony that we should be able to promote in this juncture. And now it is a time for discussion for the women molestation and things like that has happening in India for the past few years, and it has been a subject for debate in all over the world itself. So when there was a time, in the time of Jahiliyyah, in the darker age, the girls were buried alive, but Prophet started teaching the people the value of the women. They were given all the respect, all the freedom, and in such a way that later on the companion of Prophet came and asked to pray for blessing them with the girls. So our wives, our sisters, and our mothers are to be respected in a good way. So then Prophet said, those who are the best, those who are dealing with the family in the best way. So this kind of harmony, not only with the religious harmony to the family, harmony to the nature. And Prophet say about the nature, if you are sure that tomorrow is the doomsday, it is your duty to plant a tree that will definitely be useful for your next generation. So this kind of vast-minded things to be come out from our heart and make the world a peaceful and happy atmosphere to live in a very good way, in dignitary way. And with this word, I conclude my speech. I once again thank for the organizers, especially my friend Ishaq and other his companions who organized with the jointly organized with the KMCC and other Muslim student organization. And also I thank the professors and other university office bearers for extending their valuable support. And I request all of you to pray for the peace and love and compassion, fraternity. Thank you one and all. Assalamu alaikum.
Respected dignitaries on the dais, my beloved students and teachers of this university, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to be here with you in this afternoon, and we are here in a conference on faith and harmony. We are talking on religious pluralism, multiculturalism, multiple traditions, and a distinct faith. Basically, we always face two kinds of questions. First, how we can live in a multicultural, multi-religious, multi-ethnic, multi-linguist world where there are too many diversities. And the more scholars are studying the society, the individual, the human being, we are getting all the latest researches in psychology, sociology, anthropology, and all these kinds of social sciences brings the result that each and every person is different. We know about the multiple intelligence theories kind of things, and everybody say everybody is different. Each and every person is different. A father and mother is different. The siblings of a parents are different. Their world is different. Their thought process is different. Their abilities are different. So how we can live in a society where there is, in every phase, every aspect, we see the differences. The second one, in a multicultural world in all its sense, how we can promote the thought, the perspective, the perceptions, the belief that we believe that it is correct or it is right. How we can promote it, or should we need to promote it? If I believe it is correct, then should we need to promote it? Is it so? Then how we can promote it? These are the two questions always we face when we live. And basically, we know that even in very small, tiny matters, we used to differ from each other. If we organize a program or a feast at home, if we invite some of our friends or relatives to our home, father may say we can prepare a biryani, mother may say we can prepare a usual meal, daughter may say we can prepare a fish biryani, the other kind of thing. We can arrange this way, we can arrange this that way. So in nominal things, in casual things, there are differences among the people. So what about the things which relate to our belief systems, our thought process, the things that are transcendent? So it's, of course, there are chances, and it's sure that there are differences. So we need to live together to promote the society in a better way. We need to live. We need to respect each other. Barring the religion, barring the perspectives, as we human being, as the inaugurator was saying, we have similar kinds of aspirations. Though it may differ, we have our own aspirations. We have our own delights, happiness, pleasures. We have our own problems, our own difficulties, hospital cases, diseases, tensions, confusions, tensions about our kids, about our future, about our business. So in this kind of things, people are common. Each and every person is in different kind of problems they're facing. So we need to promote a kind of living in the community, in the society. They respect each other, they consider each other, they care each other, irrespective of their religion, their personal beliefs, their differences, their different kind of thought process. We need to promote a living. That is what people are, that is because of this concept, people have coined words like religious pluralism, multiculturalism, multiple traditions, these kind of things. There are a lot of studies are going on how to bring people together, how to make people able or make them capable of living in a multicultural society. One of the things is that to know each other is one of the better way to have a common way of living together. If I know what are the symbols you respect, what are the books you see sacred, what are the names you feel glorious, what are the rituals you observe, what are the days you want to make it in a sacred way. So if I know about you, though you are a Hindu, a Christian, a Jewish, a Buddhist, or a Muslim, whoever may be, if I know about you, then I can deal with you in a way that I'm not making you in a bad relationship with me. Because if I'm not accepting it as my belief, I acknowledge it, I respect it. That respect is too much needed in the world. That respect is too much needed, especially as a student gone through the Central University. In India, we have such a situations. In Pondicherry University, you may be facing such a situations. People are coming from different backgrounds, from different religion. They get a chance to live together. They get a chance to understand each other. This understanding is very much important. Ignorance, most of the time, ignorance of the things that people may, how people see the sacred things is one of the root cause that brings enmity among the society. So to know each other is important. Second thing, we need to respect that. We need to respect that. Always we have to think that I'm different and he is different. We, both of us, cannot be thinking in a similar way. So if I'm not in congruity with his, in agreement with his opposite opinion, I acknowledge that. He has an opposite opinion in that case. So this is one of the points that we need to focus, to emphasize, to make the society able to live in a harmonious way, in a multicultural society, to bring religious pluralism. Religious pluralism, as a Muslim, I feel religious pluralism is not that I believe in all religion. It's not. It cannot be. If I do believe in my religion, I cannot believe that all other religions are correct and right. If you believe in one ideology, whatever it may be, you cannot accept the other thing is correct. It is some pseudo kind of approach. The right way is that if I do believe in my belief system, it should not be in a way opposing the other person's belief, making him in a painful way facing his own things. Make everybody comfortable in their belief systems, unless and until it breaches the harmonious way of living in the society. I should not make you uncomfortable while I go with my religion. It should be our motto. It should be our motto. I should not impose my religion, my perspective, my visions, my way of thought among any other persons, especially in people respecting other religions, firmly believing, firmly convinced in such kind of things. This is one of the things. The other thing, when I say how to promote, then, if I believe my religion or my perspective is correct, if I believe, you may differ, then what is the way to promote it? If I believe it is correct, this might, I will believe along with that I should promote it. If I have a truth with me, then I'll be trying to convey it. One of the things, say it smoothly, and more than that, the important in the things that live it. It should be in a living. Your biography is very important. Make it effective with your living system. It is not that you boast, but it is what you live. It is what you make others feel that you are feeling you have a great or a glorious way or way of concept, way of belief. I believe that as far as Islam is concerned, it is not that I write in the column of religion that I am a Muslim. It's not. It's not that I am getting all the reservations in the name of Muslims. It is not that I am getting the scholarship in the name of Muslim and I can give my certificate of religion. So it is not. But it is a Muslim say, I am seeking peace from inside. I give peace for everybody with us. Islam have this meaning to seek the peace. It is my inside peace. I cannot commit suicide. Whatever happened to me, I have a belief that I can go along with that. Though I poverty, though I am a rich, though I am in confusion, in very, very confused system or very tension, I should be able to seek peace from inside my mind. Even a word, ghani, is the wealthy person, rich person. Even the richness, the word itself, the Arabic word is ghina. Ghani is a rich person. What is the richness? If I earn 1,000 rupees and I have a need of, my mind say I have a need of only 800 rupees. I'm a ghani. I'm a rich person. If I earn 20,000 rupees, I have a need of 25,000 rupees per month, then I'm a fakir. I'm poor. I further need to 5,000 more. I am not ghani. It's my mind. I should seek peace. I should spread peace. Peace in the sense it's not my only namaz. It's not my roza. It's not only my hajj. It's not my rituals. It is, Islam say, it is my relationship with you. Maybe my parents, my siblings, my grandparents, the aged persons, the small, the children, the kids, my neighbors, my relatives, my people in my religion, the other religion, my relationship with a plant, my relationship with an animal, my relationship with the world, everything. Even the Prophet ﷺ says that if you have a plant in your hand, you should put it inside the soil. If it grows up, it leaves, say, the tasbih of God. If anybody gets its fruits, it is sadaqah, it's charity from you. If somebody gets a shadow from a tree, it's a charity for you. So, if I utilize my religion positively, even my efforts for conservations, for environmental protection, for water conservation, for the animal protection, for the animal love, for the humanity, everything is considered as my religion, and that is my complete submission to Allah the Almighty. In that way, this is not my saying, not my oration, not my speech. If that message be my living system, then only I can claim that I am Muslim. It is not my, according to the certificate. It is not according to my certificate. It is if I live, if I am obedient, if I am committed, if I seek peace, if I spread peace, then only that I am a Muslim. That is the message of every religion. Every religion, there may be the difference between the concept of God, but it make us capable of living together in a harmonious way. May the God Almighty bless us to live together in a harmonious way, respecting the differences and seeing everybody as a human being, giving utmost care, utmost friendship, utmost love and affection, and make our world, though very smaller, it is pleasing each other and enjoying the life. Enjoy your life. There is a book called Enjoy Your Life. It is not to dance to a tune, but it is if a person who is blind, he is standing on one side of the road. If I am rushing to my job, then I stop there and I touch the hand of that blind person and I help him cross the road, and I find my enjoyment. That is the enjoyment of life. May Allah the Almighty make us capable of spreading that kind of enjoyment, utilize our religion, our perspectives, our vision in a positive way. Thank you for all of us to inviting you this very glorious and auspicious occasion. Wa akhir dawana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I deem it a great honor, a privilege indeed, to be present on this occasion, to chair a panel discussion on a theme that is particularly relevant in these very troubled times. The theme of this conference is religious pluralism and multiculturalism. And so, where do we begin? We begin, as all our speakers have said, with an invocation: let there be peace. If there has to be coexistence, peaceful coexistence, if there has to be civilization, if there has to be cultural efflorescence, the first precondition of all this is peace. And so, as all our speakers have said rightly, I too join that prayer, let peace be upon all of us. And I think that is one of the greatest prayers that one can ever think of. With peace is a necessary precondition for religious tolerance, cultural existence, and even, I would say, for civilization itself. And these are indeed extremely turbulent times that we are living in. And I do not want to remind you of what those turbulent times portend. I think all of you are aware of the difficulties that we are all facing in these very difficult times. Now, since I'm a historian, I would like to take the liberty of presenting a historical perspective and then invite my panelists to share their views. Why is it that the headlines of almost all the newspapers, if you look at the headlines of all the newspapers, we hear of violence in different parts of the world? I think we have to ask that question. We cannot shy away from that question because it is an inconvenient question. Why is there violence? Some would say that this is violence in the form of jihadi terrorism. Others would say no, it is only assertion of the rights of the subalterns, the suppressed, and the depressed and the oppressed, etc. But be it in whatever political category we classify these acts of violence, the fact is that we are living in extremely turbulent times and very difficult times. And I would like to address precisely that issue. Why is the world facing such problems? And from a historical perspective, because I do not want to touch too many contemporary issues, because I'm sure my other panelists will touch on them. And only when we look at history can we understand the present. We cannot decontextualize the present from the past. Islam has been one of the great religions of the world. And if you look at the way in which Islam began and spread into Central Asia, North Africa, even in Europe, I would say that it is the first great cultural revolution that the world has ever seen. It transformed the societies, the economies, the civilizations of the entire world, stretching from Central Asia, why indeed Central Asia, even beyond Central Asia, China to France. It was this whole swathe of territory that was once the domain of Islam. It was perhaps the second largest empire the world has ever seen. The first, of course, will always be the Mongol Empire of Genghis Khan. There cannot be any empire that is greater in territorial extent than Genghis Khan's. The second would be the Empire of Islam. And what was his contribution? A contribution that perhaps we have to recount. It's contributed immensely to the efflorescence of scientific thought all over the world. In fact, European scholars will agree that Islam provided the basis for the transmission of almost the entire corpus of mathematical, geometrical, astronomical wisdom to the rest of Europe. In fact, if you look at the ways in if you look at the concepts inherent in fields like algebra, many of the concepts that are inherent in astronomy, you will find that that the origin goes back to the great achievements of Arabic science in the 9th, 10th, and 11th century, which was transmitted to the whole world. Baghdad was a center of great learning. Cairo was a center of great learning. And people came from all parts of the world to study under the noted philosophers, mathematicians, astronomers in these universities. And it is these universities that provided the teachers that eventually were to transform the whole world in a phase that we call the Renaissance. So Islamic civilization has played a very vital role in the history of the world. Not only that, the Mediterranean, if you just look at the Mediterranean Sea from the perspective of geography, it connected the trade routes that linked Asia with Europe. And all around the Mediterranean Sea, you have a ring of states, societies, which were essentially the followers of Islam. And trade flourished. They were extremely wealthy societies. But then, what happened? I do not want to speculate on the reasons why things fell apart. But then, from the 11th century, 12th century onwards, you had a series of military attacks that completely disrupted this civilization. A great civilization got disrupted, and I'm of course talking about the series of military incursions into the Middle East that in European history we know as the Crusades. The first major strike by the Western world in the heart of Islam, the Crusades. First time you can even say that it was a fragmentation of this great civilization. A great civilization got fragmented, broken. And the consequences of that fragmentation have been disastrous for the rest of the world because it marked the first step towards European ascendancy at every step. And today we are living in the shadow of that ascendancy. We are living under the hegemony of the West, which does not want to see any non-Western power as an equal. And therein lies the great challenges that not only civilizations like India, the great Islamic civilization, and of course the Chinese civilization face. The Western world does not want to see a civilization that is confident, that is inspiring, that is able to assert itself with a sense of dignity and represent a civilization to the rest of humanity. And it is there, as I said, that the real challenges lie. In fact, Samuel Huntington even wrote a book in which he had said that the clash of civilizations between Islam and the Western world is inevitable. And indeed, that is what happened. You can look at what is happening in the world today, whether it is Iraq, whether it is Egypt, whether it is Libya, whether it is Afghanistan, or whether our own neighbor Pakistan, or one of our speakers had said Myanmar, northern Myanmar. In all these different parts of the world, you have probably inspired by examples from the West, an attempt to disrupt the civilization. And we are seeing the consequences of that disruption everywhere. And I do not know. I can only see the problem, but I do not know the solution. Because it is, as I said, I'm a historian. I can only see that the destruction of the Islamic civilization was partly the result of Western designs, which did not want to see this great civilization become an alternative for the rest of the world. It should be the West, and the rest of the world should perish. That has been the ideology behind Western history. And we are seeing that in action in our own day. When Iraq was invaded, what was the provocation? Iraq was not an aggressive country like the United States. But yes, it was invaded on a false pretext. And since that invasion till this day, how many people have died? There's not even a count. There's not even a count. Similarly, you are seeing what is happening in Egypt. Egypt was one of the few countries in the region which had a fairly stable democracy, a fairly stable government. But then when the moment one of the candidates of the Islamic Brotherhood or the Muslim Brotherhood came to power, the army, inspired by the United States, ensured that he is deposed. I'm talking about Musri. And there is nothing but bloodshed in Egypt as well. And you can you can notch up all the countries of the world one by one, and you can see that there is nothing, not a single country that has been left untouched. Why? Because there is an intent to bring a great civilization down. And that is the reason why I would say that we have to be aware of history, aware of the great designs that the United States has on all these civilizations. Now coming back to India, where also we have to see where things lie. India declared itself a nation state in 1947. And this nation states, by their very definition, are engines of violence. Nation states, by their very definition, are engines of violence. And we have seen, why should, again, if we have seen, when we can document the violence that has happened in different parts of the world, let us turn our gaze inwards. There has been a lot of violence in India starting from 1947 and beyond. What is the solution for that? And that is the reason why conferences like this become important. Is there a solution? And I think our two speakers rightly said that we should try to have understanding, because from understanding comes peace, and from peace comes mutual respect and coexistence. But then, unfortunately, there are far too many factors in Indian society, particularly the identity politics that has been floated for the last 20 or 25 years in India, that tears the people apart. Assertion of identity. And identities are asserted not for faith. The identity politics is not based on faith, because faith is always an individual act of confession. Identity politics is only for power. And unfortunately, we are seeing, living in days when identity politics has started taking a toll on our own society for various reasons. And it is my wish and prayer that that the younger generation, to which all of you belong, understand this and not fall prey to the machinations of those who want to tear the society apart for purely for reasons of political or social power. And I'm sure all of you, being highly educated, do understand that. It is difficult at times because, we live in a days of instant communication, where identities are so multiple, so flexible, and they're mutable. I understand that it is very difficult, but then we should fortify ourselves against the tendency in our day and age for identities to be invoked for purely political gains. And that is the role that education has to play. And I'm sure that, that during the course of your studies here, you'll be able to understand that this is what is really the crux of the problem that prevents us from developing our full potential as citizens. Everybody talks about the Constitution and its rights, but and the liberties that are enshrined in it. But then we have to move on beyond that, because beyond a human document, there is also a civilization. And that civilization teaches us to respect each other, to be tolerant to each other, and above all, not to exploit each other. And I think therein and I think that message comes through not only from the examples that we can give from history, but also from what we would like to take away from conferences like this. As I agree, as I said right at the beginning, we are living in very troubled times, but we should be aware of why the times are troubled and how we can deal with the turbulence that is inherent in our society. With these words, I thank the organizers of this very splendid conference for having invited me to chair this very significant panel. Thank you.
First of all, I do the usual things like thanking the organizers. I'm indeed happy to be here and also welcome the dignitaries on the dais. I face myself with a bit of a confusion because, let me tell you a little bit of history about this. I was very happy to come, but then the time has been cut down in a systematic manner from, say, 1 hour to 40, 30, now it is 20 minutes. I'm saying this because I have a 25-page written paper which I cannot then read or even present. So what I will do is to probably read parts of it, or some parts of it, and then in a around the area that we are all thinking about today. The conference is on faith and harmony. As all of us immediately can think of, the faith, faith belief, and in order to create harmony, of course, the speakers earlier talked about difference, coping with difference, living with difference, etc. Many ideas are there. And I would also think that one of the ideas of having a panel is to have different perceptions. Again, differences. Again, divergent opinions. So what I will try to present is a little critical, probably a little, what you call, tongue-in-cheek kind of statement about this whole notion which ties faith with harmony. As we can quickly guess, what ties faith with harmony is a notion of secular. And what I'm going to say is something to do with about the impossibility of being secular. There's a demand on all of us to be secular. If you remember, in the 1920s, before independence, there was these two expressions. One was Muslim Indians and Indians. And there is a demand on Muslims, even now Christians, etc., to become secular. As if there is a category, some people are already secular and others has to be secularized. And since we have a history of being blamed for not being secular, what I try to do is to actually ask, yes, we cannot be secular, because there seems to be internal contradictions within the category itself, that nobody can be secular. Nobody has been secular. And this, I don't know, some of you may be familiar with the works of Talal Asad, anthropologists who have written about the formations of the secular, where he shows that the history of secularism itself is from within a religious environment. It is not religion versus secular. The first use of the word secular is actually to denote, it is first used as secular land. What is secular land? Land belonging to the church. So the church has two kinds of land, religious land, secular land, and both belong to the church. What is a secular land? Land which can be used for educational, hospital, etc., different purposes. But the land is still the land of the church. So you can see there is something, the Western history of the word secular itself. So there are problems with this category itself. So what I try to do is to reconceptualize, rethink the category itself. Instead of trying to be ardent, to become secular, and faced with the impossibility of secular. What I will try to do is to read a little bit of the paper first, and then come back to this notion of impossibility of being secular. A little bit of history. In the wake of the 1857 rebellion and the severe and systematic colonial repression that targeted all potentially subversive communities in the north of the Indian subcontinent, this is a pre-partition, north of the Indian subcontinent, a 52-year-old royalist, he has been accused of supporting the British. A 52-year-old royalist traveled to London to find out what was wrong with the world. The year is in the wake of 1857. Some of you can already guess who the guy is. Sayyid Ahmad Khan belonged to a well-to-do aristocratic family and might have thought of himself as belonging to an international fraternity. He would not have called himself an Indian. He would have belonged to the world, to an international fraternity that shared progressive ideas of government. But the colonial intervention had already substituted Urdu for Persian in 1835, a move touted as having rendered a whole nation of Muslims illiterate. they knew Persian, suddenly Urdu was replaced. Urdu replaced Persian. The whole nation became illiterate. The flip side of this would be that it must have made another nation, in all the senses, literate. New centers of power, along diverse ideas of nascent nationalism that happily married at convenience and lived a turbulent life, working with such imponderables as the secular, the communal, the feudal, the capitalistic, the social, the cultural, the political, the public, the private, and the like. Such what I called as the imponderables, and adopting strategies of antagonism and collaboration as and when required as a governmental strategy was springing up. The London visit gave Sayyid Ahmad Khan a rude shock and a new calling. He was shocked out of his skin. What shocked him? Sayyid Ahmad Khan left the Indian continent in 1869 with the hope that he would be able to prepare a refutation of British attacks on the history of Islam by using the wide range of sources available to his adversaries. He thought he will go to London and tell them that Islam is good. And you have books there. In your own library, I'll show you this. He was not planning to come back. But going over the book called The People of India, a publication of the Indian office, and reading the English descriptions through his, he does not read English, reading the English book and the descriptions through his son's translations, Sayyid Ahmad Khan was shocked to find photographs of nearly naked men or people in unfamiliar dress featured as representative of Indians, Hindus, Muslims, etc. This is the way probably now we think of tribals. Right? If you see the photos of tribals, probably tribals are not even that now, but we can see that. That is the same expression, same experience which Sayyid Ahmad Khan faced. The photographs of Indian were not of Indians according to him. The third volume describes an Aligarh district landholder as having, quote from the book, features that are peculiarly Mohammedan, of the Central Asian type, and while they vouch for the purity of his descent, exemplify in a strong manner the obstinacy, sensuality, ignorance, and bigotry of his class. It is hardly possible, perhaps, to conceive features more essentially repulsive. This is the colonial description of an Indian native. This is a shock which Sayyid Ahmad Khan faced. He was reading this. Sayyid Ahmad Khan's exposure to the other's representation had a very telling effect. He decided to come back and live among the natives. He started various English medium schools, much to the chagrin of the ardent and hardened nationalists, whether of religious or secular credentials. He also established the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College at Aligarh in 1875, which in 1920 became the AMU, Aligarh Muslim University. If what shocked Sayyid Ahmad Khan was that he could be represented, enumerated, as belonging to peoples with whom he had nothing in common. See, when he went to London, he thought that he had more things with the British than with the other Indians. He thought that he was an international figure. He had more in common with the Europeans than with the other Indians. Belonging to peoples with whom he had nothing in common, but the same people with whom he thought he had many things in common. The Saja Committee report recently has provided us with another kind of shock. I will not go on to this. This paper is basically about Muslim responses to Western education, and which traces the history of Deoband, Aligarh Muslim University, etc. Some of the Muslim universities and their histories. What are the kind of ways in which they try to come to grips with the same shock which probably Sayyid Ahmad Khan set off. In the remaining 10 minutes, what I will try to do is to address this question more directly without going through the paper itself. So I started by saying that faith and harmony, so what comes in between? What is supposed to link them together? Different faiths to live in harmony, to live with difference, in harmony, and one word which comes out is the term called secularism. And I already said about the impossibility of being secular. And I also said that the problem is not with us, that we cannot be secular. I am posing that what is wrong is something wrong within the term itself. That nobody probably can be secular, has ever been secular. So it is probably time that we started looking at this concept a little more critically, instead of looking at ourselves critically, that we cannot be. I can do this much more simply if I just substitute the word secular with a word called modernity. See, these days how we categorize secularism is as secular modern. So modernity and secular are tied together in an intimate manner. If you're still not convinced of what I'm talking about, let me give another example. Think of 5 Indian leaders. I'll name them. Mahatma Gandhi, Jinnah, Nehru, Ambedkar, Savarkar. Let's pause at just 5 names. The question I'm posing is that among these 5, how many were believers? Out of these 5, how many were believers? Remember the names again. Gandhi, Jinnah, Nehru, Ambedkar, Savarkar. It may shock you to know that out of these 5, only 1 was a believer. The other 4 were non-believers. So to talk about faith and harmony by non-believers doesn't make much of a sense. What do they have faith in? They have faith in something called secular. Now let me push this again by citing another statement, another provocative statement by Maulana Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali said this statement to none other than India's first Prime Minister. Now what did Muhammad Ali say? He said, "My communalism, sir, is much more secular than your secularism." This is exact quote from Muhammad Ali, that my communalism is more secular than your secularism. What does it mean? So Muhammad Ali understood the impossibility of what is known as the formation called secular. Formation of secular is a word I'm borrowing from Talal Asad. Now, what I said is that I will try to talk about the way in which secular modernity is sort of implicates each other, and probably quickly the contradictions, give a glimpse of the contradictions within it. Probably it is much more easier, as I said, to talk about modernity than secularism per se, because secularism has different trajectories, different histories in different places. It may strike you that none of the Indian languages have a word for secularism. Let me probably, it's a tall claim, but most Indian languages, most Indian regional languages do not have a word for secularism. It has to be grafted. A word has to be created for it. It doesn't exist, right? Now, what are the contradictions? I put it to you that I'll point out 2 contradictions. Earlier it was also mentioned, I'm just connecting and carrying on from the speeches earlier, that let's look at the problem of modernity. What is modernity? What is secular modernity? What does it give us? It is said that it gives us freedom. What freedom does it give us? It gives us freedom to be ourselves, to live our life according to rational, logical, not faith, not belief, all right? Modernity allows us to live life in our own logical, rational ways, all right? Which also means that it allows us to be logical, rational. It gives you freedom from tradition. It allows you to turn your back against tradition, because tradition is what? Is a blind faith. You believe. You do something which is traditional because your forefathers have done this. Centuries and generations of people have been doing it, so you think it is good, so you keep doing it. That is one way. What modernity says is that, no, you do what you believe. You think, and if you believe, you think this is right, you can do it. So it gives us freedom. 1. Modernity offers us freedom. Second thing which modernity offers us, or secular modernity offers us, is secularism. Second thing which offers us is equality. That whatever belief, creed, whatever you are, skin color, gender, any of this belief, etc., all men and women all humans are equal. I put it to you that these 2 are lies. That modernity has not delivered it. Not only that it has not delivered it, it cannot deliver it. And why is that? I'll show you with particular reference to Indian situation. How did secular modernity reach India? Who brought it here? It is not German, it did not grow here. It was brought here with colonization. All right? So British brought modernity here and told us that we can be free. Can you see the historical irony here? That British told us that you can be free by making us slaves. This is one of the historical contradictions inherent within modernity itself. We cannot be modern. What is this freedom that by becoming slaves that we have been given? 1 critical question. Second, I'll just stop in 5 minutes. The second thing which offers is the notion of equality. Now let us give this example of, say, England, India, and Bangladesh. So the logic of equality says that if India struggle hard, save money and progress and develop, India will become like England. And if Bangladesh does this, they can become like India and then become like England. This is the logic of equality. But there is inequality, and the inequality can be addressed because everybody can. I so jokingly tell my students that they're saying that everybody can become Tata and Birla. All you have to do is to save money. You know how impossible that is. How many Tatas and Birlas are there, right? So there is an inequality, the whole idea of equality, which is proffered to us, which is offered to us, I say is impossible. Let me give this example. It looks logical. The whole development logic is very clear, that a seed will become a plant will become a tree. It seems so logical that what beats us is the illogicality of this. And what is illogical here? What is the internal contradiction here? Imagine 100 years. The small seed has become plant and they become tree. After 100 years, there are 3 trees, right? So it seems a success of the logic. Now what is the problem here? After 100 years, there will still be a small tree, a bigger tree, and an even bigger tree. Because the other tree does not stop growing. So what says that, they say that you can be equal. What it says is that inbuilt within this equality itself is an inequality. So these are some of the questions that we need to think about instead of beating ourselves trying to become modern, trying to become secular. No, it is impossible. It's about time we started questioning these categories themselves. Yeah, with this word probably there will be more, more questions later on. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I deem it a privilege to be here among you, to felicitate this conference on religious pluralism, multiculturalism, multiple traditions, and a distinct faith. Let me start with Professor M.T. Ansari's path-breaking kind of question that we cannot be, or statement that we cannot be secular. No one can be secular. In fact, we are compelled to be secular in this land. And he has traced in his etymological hunt, he has traced the origin of the term secular. And perhaps we all know that secularism, or the word secular, is a borrowed term from the West. And it is a colonial product. In fact, it was introduced into the Indian Constitution by together by Jawaharlal Nehru and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. India is a secular socialist republic. What is secularism for the West is not secularism for us. Secular in the West has a different meaning, that there is no religion. At least the state has no religion. I mean, the state has no bias or no love or special concern for any religion. All religions should be ill-treated, if not treated equally. There should be discrimination of all religions. And in India, we have a different perception of that particular word, secular. Say, for example, what is the national animal of India? We have an answer. What is the national bird of India? We have an answer. What is the national religion of India? We cannot answer this question because there is no official religion for our nation. Because we believe in multi-religious, multi-plural social setup. But when it comes to identity, all these issues are discussed only, as Professor Venkata Raghutam, pointed out correctly. We are standing in a crisis. we are standing in intemperate time. We are standing in a time of tensions, frictions between different religions, different groups, different ethnic groups, different national groups. And the identity of one is constructed with the identity of the other, within quotes. The identity of the mother is constructed through the identity of the child. The identity of the black is constructed through the identity of the white. The identity of the Hindu is constructed through the identity of the Muslim. The identity of a Christian is constructed through the identity of the other. But the problem comes when certain binaries are constructed. Certain binary identities are constructed based on dubious assumptions like white is good, black is evil. These people are good, these people are bad. These people are traditional, these people are modern. These people are peacemakers, these people are terrorists. When such binaries are constructed based on dubious assumptions, there comes all kinds of problems. And we are living in a period full of such problems. Let me tell you a small example from a popular movie, a Tamil movie, just 2 minutes. The film starts with a scene like this. It starts in, the first scene is shot in Afghanistan. A group of terrorists, within quotes, a group of terrorists are coming, coming from Afghanistan through some other, areas, and they are trying to enter Chennai. They are going to place a bomb in Chennai, and they in fact choose Chennai as their favorite destination because Chennai is the only place where no such incidents happened so far. The filmmaker selected Chennai as the spot. And these people are wearing, the Musalman's cap and a big kurta and other things. They are planning to place some bombs and devastate Chennai. They enter Chennai and they conspire a plot. And 3 press persons, very vigilant press persons, 1 lady and 2 gentlemen, they are eavesdropping and peeping into the conspiracy, the plans hatched by these people, the terrorists. And as usual, one of the terrorists happens to see this girl watching and videographing their conspiracy. Then those 3 journalists are chased by these terrorists. 2 of them, one journalist was burnt alive, and 1 more was killed, and this girl escapes unhurt, and she falls into a ditch. And she says, this dialogue is to be monitored carefully, is to be watched carefully. The girl says, some evil forces are here in this nation. Some evil forces are there in this nation. Somebody will come. Somebody will come to put an end to this evil forces, to these evil forces, to this crisis. Someone would have born somewhere. He'll come, he'll come, he'll come. And she cries, and the camera shifts from the face of this girl to a temple where we can hear the ringing of the bell and the trishul. So the film is Velayudham, means the lethal weapon which is used, which is construed as a religious symbol in India. We know the power of this Velayudham, how it protected thousands of minorities in this land. We all know, we are aware of it. Still, a person who is a man-eater of this land, he claims he can become the leader of this nation. If he claims such things, if he can move freely after killing thousands of people in this land, that in fact shows how peaceful, how harmonious the religion Islam is. Just 3 anecdotes from the lives of Muhammad the Prophet. Muhammad, the Prophet says, let me read this particular thing, just one paragraph. Prophet Muhammad says, it is to help him if he asks your help, to lend him if he asks to borrow from you, to satisfy his needs if he becomes poor, to console him if he is visited by an affliction, to congratulate him if he is met with good fortune, to visit him if he becomes ill, to attend his funeral if he dies, not to make your house higher than his without his consent, lest you deny him the breeze, to offer him fruit when you buy some, or to take it to your home secretly if you do not do that, not to send out your children with it if so as not to upset his children, not to bother him by the tempting smell of your food unless you send him some. This much compassionate, this much peace-loving Muhammad the Prophet is. Just 3 anecdotes from his life. First anecdote, these are all, first anecdote, he, 2 persons met Muhammad the Prophet. One person said, I have the habit of praying, performing prayers 15 times a day. 15 times a day, favor me. His neighbor said, sir, I don't find time to perform prayers for 15 times because I have to protect my family. I have a sick mother. I have an old father, aged father. I have many family members. I have to look after all of them. I need to work hard. I need to earn money to protect my family. So I find less time. I couldn't find time to perform prayers for 15 times. Then Muhammad the Prophet asked the other person, of course you are performing prayers 15 times. Who is looking after your family? The other person is looking after my family. Then Muhammad said, he is better than you. He is better than you. On another occasion, second anecdote, a lady parceled everything in a bundle, in a sack, and she was carrying it. She was running, in fact, from that land. Muhammad the Prophet stopped her. My dear lady, old lady, where are you going with a big bundle, with a big baggage on your back? In fact, you couldn't even carry that. Where are you going? I am afraid of, the lady says, I am afraid of a prophet. I am afraid of a prophet who is coming and converting people to a new religion. I am afraid of him. I flee this land. Then Muhammad the Prophet said, okay, I'll help you. Give me that baggage. Wherever you want to go, I'll take you there. Then she was dropped by Muhammad the Prophet to the place where she wanted to go. Then she asked, who are you? Who are you, my dear good man? You carried my baggage. You dropped me where I wanted to go. Who are you? Then he said, the prophet who you are afraid of. I am the person. I am the person. Third anecdote, a lady used to heap, dust, all garbage whenever she meets Muhammad the Prophet. When she fell ill, Muhammad the Prophet entered the house. He in fact cured. He in fact took care of that old lady. Then she again asked the same question. She realized her mistake. Then she said, Muhammad, how many times I heaped, dust, dirt on you, garbage on you, but you showed enormous love and affection for me. This is the mercifulness, this is the compassion of Muhammad the Prophet. And today we are encountering a very, very serious kind of charge against Islam, that Islam, in fact the West is paranoid about Islam. Islam was propagated through sword. Islam was propagated through sword. In fact, modern historians have another charge. You dig any mosque in India, you will find traces of Hindu temple. I tell you, my dear friends, Muslims, believers, non-believers, I tell you, if you dig any mosque, there will be traces of Hindu temple. But if you dig further, you will find traces of Buddhist shrines. If you dig further, there will be traces of another thing. Because history, of course, Professor Venkataragautam is here. He'll agree with me. History shouldn't be viewed as a fixed kind of thing. There is no fixities. History should be viewed as a continuous kind of thing. In fact, when Mughals invaded India, they believed in one particular god. So they didn't believe in, even today, they don't believe in idol worship. So naturally, temples came in for attack. Number two, temples were, were treasure houses of wealth, gold ornaments. Very recent example, Padmanabha Swami temple, tons of gold. So for every invader, wealth, acquiring wealth, accumulation of wealth became a necessity. Islam is misconstrued as an aggressive faith. And it is time to repudiate all kinds of such notions, false notions, because the West is paranoid about Islam. There is only one reason, no other reasons for it. Whether we believe it or not, whether you believe it or not, Islam is the most scientific religion of all religions, and Islam is the fastest growing religion of all the religions throughout the world. If you believe it or not, that is the fact. So the West has every reason to be paranoid about Islam, but for that they cannot come out with this kind of things. And Scopelin, one popular media critic, says all kinds of media images construct deliberately some kind of negative stereotypes about Muslims. For example, exchanging counterfeit currency notes, indulging in robbery, hatching a conspiracy against the state, all kinds of such scenes in movies or in any kind of thing. Or whenever there is a bomb blast, there will be very next day there will be headlines that Islamic jihad. Jihad is another misinterpreted term. In my opinion, I read one anecdote, one story from an Islamic text. This is a wonderful example for understanding jihad. 10 persons are sailing in a boat, and in the middle of the sea, one person is drilling a hole sitting in the boat. And when others objected to that, he said, it is my finger, it is my tool, I am making a drill in my place. What of it? In what way it affects you, it is none of your business. Mind your business. Mind your business. I am making a hole in my place. Then others said, of course you are making a hole in your place, but when water creeps in, all of us will be out. So whenever there is an injustice in the society, it doesn't matter who is the perpetrator of that crime. It is our duty, it is the duty of every Muslim to question the injustice of any sort, in any corner. This certain understanding, and in fact, coming back to these differences, Frantz Fanon says, we should love to celebrate our differences. We should love to celebrate our differences. Another important reason for keeping this particular minority community as a community which other communities detest is this. The Islam is always considered as a religion that is incompatible. I won't even consider it as a religion, because it is simply a way of life. So this particular Islam, as considering it as an enemy within, as an enemy inside, an insider enemy, or incompatible with the traditional religions, is not a proper way to approach a religion, because certain people who detest this particular religious faith, and certain people who accuse this particular religion of promoting communal disharmony, are highly ignorant of the scriptures of Islam, and they are highly ignorant of the very community, because they think that these people are their practices, their culture, everything is incompatible with their traditions, their cultures. When I keep a mustache and and shave my beard, these people are keeping their beard and shaving the mustache. When I pray with folded hands, these people are praying with open hands. Everything these people do are quite incompatible with my faith, my belief, my convictions. So any kind of faith, any kind of conviction, is not free from violence, because without that you cannot be you cannot have any kind of conviction. So, let me end this by quoting one particular thing from the HR panel recommendations. How bad, our Muslim brothers were treated by this state is, such our panel recommendations, such our panel findings are a wonderful specimen for that. No institution run by the state has any kind of Muslim representation. Not only that, even in mainstream media, Muslim representation is dismal. Not only Muslim misrepresentation is there, it always succeeds in creating and floating some kind of negative stereotypes about the minority Muslims, and they succeed in it. And let me read this and end my speech. Any kind of, no nation can be mono-religious or monocultural, because due to fiscal migration, all nations become pluralistic, and all the religious and cultural minorities enjoy equal constitutional rights. And in a secular state like India, particularly, when the state is so smooth in favoring the celebrations of puja celebrations or any kind of other festivals, why the state is so nervous about iftar parties or seminars of this sort? In a secular state, no community, whether minority or majority, can insist that its security depends on the goodwill of the other community. The rising tide of communalism in, the majority versus minority can be stemmed only by an uncompromising secular stand. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Chairman Professor Venkat Raghottam and distinguished members in the audience, it's such a great pleasure for me to be here sharing the dais with Professor Venkat Raghottam, my very beloved and old friend, and a person with whom I have had very many discussions, mostly informal, during which I have learnt enormously from his erudition, from the very deep knowledge of history, sociology, and in general very deep reading that he has, and the perceptiveness with which he sees things. It has been a great pleasure, and I am so happy to be here today, sharing a few thoughts with him. There was an interesting discourse on secularism. I think we Indians, India always is unique, Indians always are unique, and India has evolved its own definition of secularism. It's certainly, we are not an atheist country. India is a secular country, doesn't mean we are by any stretch of imagination an atheist country. I think the Indian definition of secularism is, unlike the Western definition is equal distance from all religions. The Indian version of secularism is equal closeness with all religions. And that's why our functions have Vedic chants. If somebody wants to have a Quranic verse, nobody stops them. If somebody wants to do a stuti, it's beautiful, it's fantastic. And I think if we call India a secular country, the way India is secular, I think it's fantastic. We need not worry about what the Western idea of secularism is. Nobody stops us from wearing a turban. You can put a hijab, you can put a burqa, you can go anywhere, nobody will question you. And if anybody questions, there will be a huge number of people coming to defend your religious freedom. So I think the Indian concept of secularism, the world should learn from us. I'll come to the topic of this today's function, the religious harmony. I was born into a very deeply religious family. My parents were very deeply religious, my sisters, they all also. Everybody is very deeply religious. At the same time, I was born in a small place in Madhya Pradesh where my father was a small government servant. And he was given I'm talking of 1950, I was born in 1950, I'm talking of when I slightly grew, it was 54 or 55. An old style house was given, and after some 3/4 it was partitioned, and other side was my father's deputy, by name Mr. Mishra. So Mishra ji, his wife and the young child were in that part of the house, we were here, and very soon it was like a single family. Mishra ji would call father Bhai Sahab, and Mrs. Mishra would always call my mother Behan Sahiba, and the son will come and play, and we will play together. And after a while, there was no distinction, and it remained throughout the life. Years and years later, whatever happened, wherever Mishra ji came, he would always have the same affection. And if father needed anything, Mishra ji would leave everything from any corner of India and come rushing. That kind of deep bond. And not only that, with my sisters, their close friends were all Hindus. And again, they had very deep bonds. Then I found myself always playing with my friends were Hindus, my teachers were Hindus. When I grew further, my students were Hindus. On one hand, I was into a very deeply religious Muslim family, and on the other hand, simultaneously, I was also living in a world which was populated by my friends, my well-wishers, my teachers, my benefactors, who happened to be Hindus. So it was very natural for me to have an affection with my own religion, which was natural. I was born into it. And then I could not but have affection for the religion of those who were my friends, my teachers, my benefactors, and later on my students. While it was going on, there was another thing which was coming in my life. There were riots, there was talk of strife, there was all the time, and then in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, it wasn't, in those days it was Sikh terrorism, Khalistan and so on. Islamic terrorism had not started. But there was always a talk of conflict, because partition had happened in 1947. So the reverberation of partition were felt very strongly in the 50s and 60s. There was a distrust. Now you just see, the dichotomy I had seen in my existence, a kind of very close bonds that Muslims and Hindus shared everywhere, and those bonds were very deep and very close. At the same time, there was a distrust. There was apprehension. There were riots, Jabalpur riots, and a series of riots, and so on and so forth. And I always kept asking myself, which is the Indian reality? The closeness between the two religions is the reality, or the distrust, what caused partition and whatever was attributed to partition, is that the reality? Are these religions compatible, or they are not compatible? There was a large cross-section of people were always holding the opinion they are not compatible, and at the same time I was seeing they were very compatible. And gradually, I started in order to seek answer to this question, whether they are really compatible or they are not compatible, I started slightly getting into what Sanatan Dharma is, what is the essence of Islam. And I will not go much long. I am almost concluding my speech by giving you this message. I am giving this message to my Hindu brethren. Kindly try to learn the essence of Islam. And to my Muslim brethren, I say, please try to learn the essence of Sanatan Dharma. And you will find that these two are the most liberal of major religions. I know a little bit of Sanatan Dharma, not much, but I have no hesitation to say that it is the most liberal of the major religions in the world. There is nothing can come close to Hinduism, what we call a Sanatan Dharma, in terms of liberalism. Islam can any day become part of Hinduism, and without any harm to itself. And Christianity can become, so it's a very liberal religion. Everything can come under it. Anything good can come under it. And then Islam comes a close second. For a religion which is criticized as bound by a book. They say that Muslims are chained by a book. Their minds are all tightly closed by one book. They cannot go outside the book. Everything is cut and dried, everything is set in the medieval times, and a Muslim will never see beyond that. He is bound. For a religion which has been accused of being so straitjacketed, Islam is fantastically liberal. Islam is enormously liberal. Islam is unbelievably liberal. Even I am learning about the liberalism of Islam even at the late stage of my career. For example, the concept of what is called what the Indian form of secularism, that is the concept of equal tolerance for all religions, equal opportunity, equal rights of citizenship. These concepts were framed by none other than Prophet Muhammad as the world's first ever charter. The world's first ever charter of what is called how a secular liberal state should be in the medieval times when these ideas were not known. In the medieval times, a conqueror, it was a job of a conqueror to totally annihilate the religion of the conquered and totally convert them, and in contrast, Islam was always welcoming. Islam always protected those whom it conquered, and so on and so forth. So I will just conclude by saying that after I am now 64, almost a life of observing the two religions, observing the dynamics of the two religions, observing how those who practice these two religions behave, I feel the reality of India is that these two are very compatible religions. These two are religions which strengthen each other, which energize each other. That's how they have been for centuries. That's how wonderful feats of architecture, of music, of painting, of literature have come because of that synergy of the two religions. And I think we should move in that direction and strengthen this concept, because this also strengthens the idea of India. The strength of India is from its unity. It is not from its divisiveness. And if you move in towards that, you are also helping a national cause. With these words, I thank you once again for this opportunity.
So myself, Mushtaq Ahmed Wani. My question is to MT Ansari sir. Why, I'm Muslim sir, why Muslims have failed in presenting a complete role model for the humanity, I would say as an alternative for the world systems, more so in the last 100 years. My second question goes to Venkatam Raghunatham sir as well as T. Marcus sir. The question is like that, as Marcus sir pointed correctly, Islam is the most misunderstood religion. Then why are the world religious leaders silent over this action of neo-imperialism of Western forces, and as well as why they are silent over the gross human rights violations happening through the Western powers? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that is a very big question. I don't think I have such level of answers, but probably I could talk about Ziauddin Sardar, desperately seeking paradise. He talks about a particular dinner which cut off a lot of university academicians were sitting together having dinner together, and this is the time when the Berlin Wall was being pulled down. If you read the book, you will remember the instance. This is what you call a tangential answer, not a direct answer. So this is Berlin Wall was being pulled down, and there was celebration all over the place. Even they were celebrating, TV showing people embracing, celebration, etc., etc. In between all those things, Ziauddin Sardar's wife just stops and says, "Who will they target next?" So the history of the Cold War, and suddenly the Cold War is gone. Who will be next? And Ziauddin Sardar writes, there was a pregnant silence in the room because we all knew it will be us. So there is a history of, I will not go with the Huntington, but will not even go there. But there are historical reasons for many things which are happening. One of the things which Islam provides, the spread of Islam itself, is because of it has been a source of inspiration. It is rightly said, it is political, in the deepest sense, which does not even have a brook of a difference between public and private. It doesn't talk about God and Pope, Pope and King. To talk about in the Christian way, who is greater? And secularism is to say King is greater than Pope. This is ridiculous. God is of course greater, right? So how can you can see the contradictions. So one of the reasons why Islam's strength is basically that it addresses this. And that is why it gives, it is a source of inspiration for concerted political action itself.
And they have the institutions by which that human rights is enforced. I would like to ask here, if Bush and Blair are guilty of war crimes, they are not facing the Hague, but a variety of other leaders are facing the Hague. So it is the inequality of the world, what you can call the great powers, that decides who should be found guilty of war crimes, because they define what war crimes are, and they have the institutions to monitor that, the institutions to prosecute that, and the institutions that sit in judgment. Now the only alternative would be for the rest of the world to create similar institutions. But unfortunately, because of certain historical factors, the rest of the world is not pulling together to create a counterbalance to the West. And that's what I would say in answer to that. And I hope this century would see countries like India, China, other parts of the Middle East, all coming together to take on the hegemony of the Western world and create those institutions, the knowledge, the skills by which what you say, one can document and go further from there.
Regarding this human rights violations, going unnoticed, or as Professor Venkata Raghuvatham said, human rights laws are enacted not by the states but against the states' violations. Whenever we talk about human rights violations, in most of the cases, or almost in 100% cases, the human rights violators happen to be the state, the governments, not individual organizations or institutions. So and most of the institutions, like including the United Nations organization is just a stooge of the West, stooge of the United States and the other imperial forces, the hegemonical forces. So it is impossible to expect a kind of justice from those nations or from those human rights organizations, the so-called human rights protectors. So this is one reason why human rights violations go quite often unnoticed. And particularly when human rights violations include Muslims, it is easier for the mainstream media to subsume the power, the weightage of such a crisis, such a violation. So it is aided and abetted by the mainstream media, I feel. And coming to your first question, why all other religious leaders remain silent over similar misunderstanding of a religious faith called Islam. It is quite natural for any other religious leader to not to talk about any other religions, whether it is misunderstood or properly understood. It is not actually their concern, number one. Number two, they have an inherent fear about Islam, because Islam poses a severe threat to the other hegemonical forces, including other official established religions. So when it is so, it is rather absurd to expect the other religious leaders to voice their concern over misunderstanding of religious faith like Islam. It is, it is quite ridiculous to expect other religious leaders to express their concern for it. When the most responsible former Pope himself, came out with a very slurring kind of remark about Muhammad the Prophet. So it is absurd to expect such things from others.
Sir, as you said, secularism itself biased, or itself is a problematic. Secularism is problematic in its theory also. So the harmony which secularism provides is also problematic, or it's dismantled harmony like. So my question is about nationalism. So when we think about secularism, the nationalism is also same, like secularism, nationalism is also biased and it's also problematic. And do you think that nationalism as hindrance to the harmony or hindrance to the humanity?
Yeah, it may be surprising that you can just put a different spin on what you're saying. That these days we have something called a person of Indian origin, right? And it's something unimaginable some maybe 10 years back. If you're Indian, you're an ardent Indian, you're nothing but an Indian and only an Indian. So you can see the walls of nationalism as sort of widened now. Now, this also becomes interesting that you can have 2 or 3 passports, you can have multiple citizenship. I mean, with the internet, etc., the world is completely, and this is what Islam has been always saying. Islam is global, in a sense. So you can see that if you look back from this modern perspective where India has reached, and India has struggled to reach. So nationalism is not something which is, see, look at 1947. It is a moment of freedom. It is a moment of 3 freedoms. It may produce more freedoms. I come from Andhra Pradesh, where Telangana is about to happen. So these are moments of freedoms. And we should be remembered not as nostalgia, not as loss, but we celebrate that freedom which will give further more freedoms.
Islam doesn't support nationalism simply because it believes in universal brotherhood. So it promotes logical things. There is nothing irrational in Islam. So there are logical things. So sir, why is it that every time we Muslim historians are trying to say that we have given this thing, we have given Taj Mahal, we have given Durpad, we have given many things. Why is it so? Islam is not name of these things. So why we are relating Kashmir, why we are relating this Islam only to some parts of the culture when it is a complete code of life, and it guides us in every walk of life. Why we Muslim historians are not highlighting these broader dimensions of Islam which are really going to establish peace in this world, and also our salvation lies in the same hereafter. Thank you, sir.
If I understand your question correctly, what perhaps you are asking is that talking of contribution of Islam in terms of art, science, and other advancements is a minor thing. When Islam came in the time of Prophet, peace be upon him, and it spread like magic across the world as something that has never happened before and since. It happened because of, as I said, the great what has been called an irresistible force